Book of Heaven, Volume 30, November 9th, 1931. How God has the acts of the creature established, operating an incessant act of the divine will. One who does not do the divine will is left without mother and remains orphaned and derelict. My abandonment in the divine volition continues. Oh, with what tenderness it awaits me on its maternal lap to say to me,
"Daughter of my will, never leave me alone. Your mama wants you together with her. I want your company in the incessant work that I do for all creatures. I do everything for them. I do not leave them for one instant, because if I left them, they would lose life. Yet there are those who do not recognize me. Even more, they offend me, while I am all for them. Oh, how hard is loneliness. This is why I long for you, my daughter. Oh, how dear to me is your company in my acts. Company renders the work sweet. It empties it of its weight and is the bearer of new joys."
But while my mind was wandering in the divine will, my always lovable Jesus, making me his little visit, told me,
"My daughter, my will is untiring, wanting to maintain the life, the order, the balance of all generations and of the entire universe. It cannot, nor does it want to cease its work. More so, since each motion is as though given birth by it and bound with inseparable bonds. An image of it is the air which, while no one sees it, yet gives birth to the breath in the creatures, and is inseparable from the human respiration. Oh, if the air ceased its work of letting itself be breathed, the life of all creatures would suddenly cease. My will is more than air. The air is nothing other than the symbol, the image, and it produces the life of the respiration from the vital virtue of my divine will, while my will is life in itself and uncreated. Now God has all the acts of creatures and the number of their acts established. So the commitment of these acts, because they are established by God, is taken by my divine will. It orders them, and it places its life in them. But who gives the fulfillment to these acts established by the Supreme Being? One who cooperates with them and lets herself be dominated by the divine will. With the cooperation and with its dominion, she feels the bond and the inseparability from it, and feels its divine life flow in her acts. On the other hand, when she does not cooperate, she loses the dominion of my divine will. And instead of doing mine, she does her will, and each act of human will forms a void for the divine in the soul. These voids disfigure the poor creature, and since she was made for God, he alone can fill these voids, because the acts established in their number were to serve to fill her with the divine being. Oh, how horrible are these voids! In them appear crooked ways, acts without divine origin and without life. Therefore, there is nothing that ruins the creature more than her will. So, my will is operating an incessant act inside and outside of the creature, but who receives its operative act? One who recognizes it in all her acts. One who recognizes it, loves it, esteems it, appreciates it. By being recognized, my will makes one touch with one's own hand its operative and incessant act, and the creature feels its arms in hers, the power of its motion in hers, its vivifying virtue in her breath, the formation essential of its life in the beating of her heart. Everywhere, from inside, from outside, she feels herself being vivified, touched, embraced, kissed by my will. And my will, as it sees that the creature feels its loving embraces, clasps her more to its divine breast, and keeps forming its sweet chains of inseparability between itself and its beloved creature. By being recognized, it feels as though repaid of its incessant work, and with its power, it removes the veil that kept it hidden from the creature, and it makes her know who it is that forms the life of all her acts. Therefore, the more you will recognize it, the more you will feel how much it loves you, and you will love it more. In addition to this, you must know that the soul without divine will is like a flower that is picked from the plant. Poor flower, they took its life away, because it is no longer bound to the root, and, detached, it no longer receives the vital humors which circulated like blood and kept it alive, fresh, beautiful, fragrant. because it has lost the root which, like mother, loved it, nourished it, and kept it clasped to its breast. And while the root remains under the earth, as though buried alive to give life to the flowers, its children, and to let them make a beautiful appearance, so much so as to draw the human attention with its sweet enchantment, however, as the flower is picked from the plant, as if it had lost its mother, it seems to assume an attitude of melancholy, it loses its freshness, and it ends up withering. Such is the soul without my divine will. She detaches herself from the divine root which, more than mother, loved her, nourished her. And while it lives as though buried, it lives in all her acts and in the depth of her soul to administer to her the divine humors, which it makes circulate like blood in all her acts, in order to maintain her fresh, beautiful, perfumed by its divine virtues, so much so as to form the most beautiful and sweet enchantment for the earth and for the whole of heaven. So as she detaches herself from my divine will, she loses her true mamma, who with many maternal cares kept her safe, held her tightly to her breast, defended her from everyone and from everything, and she ends up becoming disfigured and withering to all that is good. And these souls come to feel the sad melancholy, for they live without she who generated them, without life, without the caresses of their mamma. So they can be called poor, derelict orphans, without custody, and maybe in the hands of enemies, and tyrannized by the passions of their own self. Oh, if the root had reason, how many harrowing cries of sorrow would it not emit in seeing the life of its flowers being snatched away, and itself being forced like sterile mother to remain without the crown of its children. But if the plant does not cry, my will cries in seeing so many of its children orphaned, but voluntary orphans, who feel all the pains of orphanhood, while their mother lives and does nothing but sadly miss and call the crown of her children around herself.
Fiat.